Greetings and welcome back to the Spread in Essence Football Picks podcast for Week 5 of the 2023 NFL season. I am Nesson.com's Mike Cole, joined as always, once again, by Ricky Doyle. Ricky, how are you?
Doing well, Mike. How are you doing?
I am a bit in a mood.
Oh, okay.
My
guns blazing.
My trademark cup of tea.
Yeah, you having some issues, it seemed like.
There was not a whole lot of variety in the tea selection upstairs. I did not get the tea that I usually drink. So I'm a little bit on edge. So if I have a bad week, I'm blaming the tea. I guess if I had known this, I would have brought my own tea from home where I have an abundance of tea. But this is the biggest tea-related incident in this area in roughly 250 years.
Yeah, and that's a big one. It's big shoes to fill. You mentioned this when we were crossing paths in the break room. And if I had a delayed response, I apologize because I didn't know what you said at first. And now I've since pieced it together that you said this was not the tea I wanted. I thought you had said something about Tijuana and that you were going to Tijuana or something of that.
I mean, it could literally not be any farther from that.
And
me talking about my
I was like, okay. I initially thought to myself, all right, Mike's taking a little trip, but hopefully we can record the podcast first. So I'm glad you're not going anywhere. In that I do wish you well in your search for better tea, but I'm glad you're staying stateside.
So we are, like 2 minutes into this, and I'm looking up Tijuana teas. I don't know if there's a special tea that is
sponsorship opportunity.
Tijuana, you can this is a thing called Tijuana tea. I'm getting this from the cocktail.uk.com. A mix of tequila, triple sec, sweet and sour, cola. So I guess it's basically a Long Island, but from tequila, from Tijuana.
Sure.
So
that is not what you're drinking, though.
No, I'm having a decaf peppermint tea.
I was gonna say, do you usually go with there's like the peppermint and then there's the lemon ginger?
I wanted the lemon ginger stuff, man.
Yeah.
I'm streamlining that, basically, with a little bit of honey. Take care of the vocal cords.
Yeah.
So that's just, I guess, a reminder. If anyone is been scintillated by these 3 minutes of conversation, we are open for business. I think.
Yeah.
Just call the sales team and maybe we can get some sort of visit Tijuana.com or something. I don't know if that's a thing.
We'll travel. You got a passport?
Yeah.
All right. Cool. Me too.
So there we go. I guess we'll be going to Tijuana sooner or later. We were just talking about doing live shows. So, all right. We'll get to our NFL picks at some point.
We got bye weeks this week.
I'm like sitting there refreshing, looking for Seattle like all morning, being like, is there an injury? I don't know what's going on.
Well, especially with them playing the Monday night game. So it's like, maybe there's, it's not on the board yet.
I saw something in the numbers I really liked that I was like, oh, wait, I guess the buys start this week. I thought they started next week, so that's my apologies. I don't know who I'm apologizing to. I guess myself.
So we got 4 teams on the bye.
Who's on the bye this week?
We got the Seattle, Tampa Bay, the Chargers, and Cleveland. Comes at a good time for Cleveland, I guess.
Yeah.
Dealing with quarterback injury. But, the 4 teams. The early bye.
We'll get to our picks. We'll do 3 picks each in varying, decreasing levels of confidence. Looking back to last week for our picks at SNBets.com, we go against the spread for every game on the slate. We both went 8-7-1. I will have to double check that, but I'm pretty sure
Sounds
that's how
right.
it came out.
They did not do well on our show pick last week.
You did not?
No.
Did you?
No, I think
would you like to recap?
I believe I went 0-3.
That's tough.
So, but I went 3 another week before, so
that's true.
It all evens out.
Yeah, I went 2-1, and my only loss was that Arizona, which felt sharp as hell until it just.
Yeah.
Well, but you had a tough break with the Cleveland game, if I'm not mistaken. Or was that a total? 3 on the total.
No,
did you even talk about that game last week?
I did not have the Cleveland game last week.
I was paying very close attention.
The Kansas City and the Jets, I think that closed at 42.5, and that was 43.
Yep.
Definitely, I was the over on the London game, which fell way short of that. And then I think it was the under in Philly and Washington, which they blew past that as well. So, yeah, it's a tough week all around. But to your initial point, all of the picks, 8-7-1, not bad.
Just completely chugging along at mediocre, 500 average. So, I will say, I think it was favorites went 11-5-1 against the spread last week. I could be wrong, maybe that's just straight up, but it was not a good week necessarily.
Did it not feel like a very short week of football? And maybe that's because there are a lot of
Walk me through this because I have no idea what you're talking about.
I feel like when you got to the 4:00 slate on Sunday, there were the 3 games going on, none of which were particularly good. So I feel like my day was over very early on Sunday.
Can I be honest with you?
Sure.
I more or less always check out after the 1:00 game unless the Patriots are playing or
fair enough.
My favorite team is.
See, I think I'm
games. They
I'm
usually
more apt to do that when we start when the weather when the weather changes. We got our weather talk.
Sure.
Weather changes and it gets darker earlier. Then I may be right there with you. But for now, I'd like to extend the day a little bit.
Interesting.
Yeah, but those are 3 pretty bad games, for the most part.
So, the week started with Thursday Night Football. Packers get mollywopped by the Lions. The game wasn't as close as the final score. I believe the final score was 34-20. That ended up being the 10th smallest margin of victory the entire week. This is the scoring margins of a handful of games this week. 14, 16, 28, 25, 24, 17, 24, 35, 19, and 21 on Monday.
Sure. So maybe that contributes to it too, right? Like they're just, even before the 4:00 games, they just weren't, there wasn't a lot to sink your teeth into.
No, there was not. So.
Like you didn't have those dramatic, the witching hour.
The witching hour has underwhelmed.
Not witching.
It has underwhelmed through 4 weeks. There's not been a lot going on. I would say that this is a byproduct of a handful of things. I think there's a bigger gap. The middle class in the NFL is shrinking.
Yep.
And I think the lack of preseason work has kind of led us to a point where some teams are better than others, and it's very noticeable. I think we get a little bit later, but we had these same conversations last year. Maybe you and I just don't like football.
I'm not willing to rule that out.
I'm not either. So, but I feel like we had this conversation a lot last year. It's like,
well, a lot to get me fired up these days.
The games will get better eventually. Wait till it gets colder, and it never came last year.
You want to talk tea? I'll sit there all day with you. But
no kidding. This is now a tea show.
Whatever.
Yeah.
Let me ask you this though. So now that we're into week 5, I feel like there's a little bit more of a sample size, so you can start digging into the numbers a little bit more. Not that I necessarily did that, but theoretically you could do that. For me, like the 4-week barometer, I guess, is when I would start to shift.
Used to be the quarter poll.
Yeah,
they screwed it up. Let's reconvene on Sunday at about 2:00 in the afternoon when most teams will be reaching the quarter point of their season.
We'll do that.
What's the question?
Free witching hour. No, I said like the
what's
4-week
speaking prompt?
The 4-week sample size is a nice little. Like until this point, I feel like you still relied a lot on your preseason perceptions of teams.
Well, so to that point, to that specific point, I think that the season is kind of played out exactly the way I anticipated through 4 weeks, where it's like, I'll go division by division really quick. AFC East, Bills and Dolphins, both really good. We knew that was going to happen. Patriots stink. I had a feeling that would happen. The Jets or whatever because of Aaron Rodgers. The North, wide open. Just slugfest left and right, the AFC North. AFC South, same thing, but to a lesser degree.
Right.
Crappier,
watered down version.
Yeah, right.
Poor man's North.
The West, the Chiefs, Chargers, everybody else sucks. Like, no surprises there. Go to the NFC, the Eagles and the Cowboys. Head and shoulders above everybody else. Maybe the Giants sucking is a bit of a surprise. The NFC North, everybody thought the Lions would be good. The Lions are good. NFC South, still no idea. Give me a dartboard. We'll throw a dart. Don't know who's going to win that division. I guess the Bucs are one of the bigger surprises in the entire league. And then you got the San Francisco 49ers running through everybody. Seattle building on what they had last year. The Rams, everybody kind of expected to be a little bit better. The Cardinals are going to stink. So, like, there's not a lot of surprise when you really run through it.
Yeah.
So, I guess it's a long way of answering your question.
No, that was a very succinct synopsis of the entire landscape of the league.
All right, well, let's
very
shut
nicely
off the lights
done, Mike.
and see you next week.
Yeah, no, I am with you on a lot of that. And what kind of sucks too is that this going into last week, it looked like it was going to be a pretty good week. I think maybe with that Buffalo Miami game especially jumped off the page. There are a few other matchups that like Cleveland Baltimore looked like it'd be a nice little litmus test. Next thing you know, Deshaun Watson's not playing. Thought maybe like even like that Cincinnati Tennessee game, like you could have talked me into that, I guess, as being somewhat entertaining.
Before we get into our picks, should we revisit the football card situation from a week ago?
What was this? Oh, yes.
Jamar Chase.
No, yeah.
Had a nice game.
Yeah.
So
we will bring back the cards.
Yeah, we're not doing it this week. But so like in the week, the guy we picked from the cards ends up having a decent game and then goes off after the game saying expletives and things like that.
I'm always
so
open.
They got the spread touch there. So yeah, all right. So I feel like we're in a good spot. Let's get into our pick.
Let's do it.
What's your 3-unit play this week?
3-unit. I am going to take the Bills and Jaguars. Another London game this week. It's back-to-back.
There we go.
Second of straight. 2 straight London games for the Jaguars. The first at Wembley. This one at Tottenham Hotspur. So change venues at least. But I am going to take the under in this game. It's at 48.5. This is more or less me fading the Buffalo offense, much like I did with the Miami offense last week. I mean, you look at the Buffalo point totals last 3 weeks, 48, 37, 30. That game against Miami just blew past it was the highest over-under of the season, I believe. It was at 53.5, I think it closed at. Blew past that. So, I got to think everybody's sort of on this, back on the Buffalo bandwagon. I just think with the spot, though, you're traveling overseas, facing a Jacksonville defense that comes into this game 7th in DPA per play. I look at Buffalo's first 4 opponents. The Jets 23rd, Raiders 30th, Commanders 24th, Dolphins 27th. I think especially in early down situations, Jacksonville is going to be able to hold Buffalo in check a little bit. On the flip side of that, Jacksonville's offense still doesn't look right to me. That was one of my picks that I got wrong last week. I thought we'd see that total go over in the Jaguars Falcons game. Did not. Obviously, the one concern here as it relates to the total is how the Tre'Davious White injury will impact Buffalo's secondary. But I think that this is going to turn into a little bit more of a slugfest than you're typically accustomed to seeing from these teams with these talented of offenses. I don't know, and I might lean Buffalo in this game as well as we get later in the week. Ultimately played that Buffalo-Miami game with laying 3 with the Bills and took the Miami total under of 25.5. So there might be something you can look at there, but for the purposes of this exercise, it's going to go with the straight under 48.5 for that London game. Kick things off with a low-scored affair.
Okay, yeah. It's going to be a Bills home game, I would imagine. Interesting little thing there where, like, Jacksonville's going to stay over there, but there's going to be more Bills fans, I would imagine.
So Buffalo is technically the home team. Probably going to have a pretty good size traveling party, right?
Yep.
But then it's also the second straight London game for Jacksonville, and if there was a London home team you could point to, it should theoretically be them, right?
Yeah, but
the amount that they play there.
I could have swore, maybe I'm making this up, I heard somewhere like the NFL just basically sends people to those games for free. So
yeah.
But I think the Jags thing is overstated, so I don't know what point I was trying to make there. More important thing is I looked up the distance between Wembley Stadium, Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. Any venture to guess? Miles.
Miles or kilometers?
Miles, yeah.
281. 38.
12.8. Which is very, I guess in the grand scheme of things, the world's pretty big.
Yeah,
so,
sure.
Also, did you know there's a Costco, London?
And what's their tea situation look like?
That's a good question. Probably pretty good,
right? It's gotta be. It's gotta be some of the best on the planet, I would imagine.
Let's see here. The Costco, Chingford, is 2.8 miles away. So that's a nice little thing for people to know. Bring your Costco card.
Sure.
If you're coming from Buffalo, they probably have folding tables, plenty of firewood and things like that.
You can get the big lighters.
Yep.
Your grill lighters.
Yes, exactly.
So you don't have any mishaps when you're at the tailgate.
Yeah, it feels like, Barney's Pie and Mash is right down the street, too, right across the Banbury Reservoir. You can go right over there, grab a pie and mash, swing through Costco.
That might be post-game, right? You rely on your own little tailgate pre-game.
Yeah.
Duck over there.
Yep.
Watch the once that game wraps, because you can have a full Sunday of football out of you at that point.
Yes, that's a good point, yeah.
So if you're traveling,
It sounds like a good weekend. Yeah.
Sure. And also take the under.
There you go.
What do you got?
My 3-unit play. The more I don't know. This is. I like the Eagles as. So I have it. What did we have here? 5.5. I think it's down to 4.5. But I put it in at 5.5. It's on the screen. 5.5. We'll roll 5.5. Get the Eagles going to Los Angeles, take on the Rams as I guess 5.5 point chalk. The Eagles are the Eagles 4-0. The Eagles are 4-0.
4-0.
Has not looked impressive yet, and I'm trying to look this up. So they're 4-0 with a point differential of plus 28. So they haven't blown anyone out. And actually, the Rams have been surprisingly competitive, although they had to go to overtime last week to beat a Colts team that is obviously not as good as the Eagles. I think the Rams might be in trouble this week. I look at them up front. I don't think they're very good on the offensive line. That's going to be a major issue. Philly has, they come in fourth in pressure percentage through 4 games. Matthew Stafford, like every other quarterback in the league, just about not good under pressure, at least compared to when he is. He's completing 40% of his passes for 5.5 yards with a passer rating of 42.1 when under pressure. That ranks below the passer rating below the likes of Mac Jones, Desmond Ridder, Zach Wilson. Zach Jones might as well be at this point a person, but
I mean, he would be on the Patriots if
that is a good point. Yeah, that's true. Zach Jones, Mac Jones, Zach. The Rams came into last week. ESPN had yet to update this, so it's a bit of an outdated stat. But coming into last week, they were 28th in pass block win rate. Philly, on the other hand, 8th pass rush win rate. As is the case with just about every Rams game or Chargers game, especially when these marquee blue blood teams from the East Coast come into town, it's going to be Eagles home game. You can run on the Rams. They've allowed 133 yards or more in 2 of their 4 games. They're allowing 4.5 yards per carry. Philly has a 3rd-ranked rushing attack. This maybe it just doesn't get right. This team just isn't as good as it was last year. I think this is a spot where if the Eagles are finally going to start to have it all click, it comes together here. I do have a little bit of concern about their secondary going up against that Rams offense, and the Rams, and this is to the credit of McVay and Stafford. They've done a nice job without Cooper Kupp, but I don't see how they get the stops, and I think Philly finds a way to run away with it, literally.
Stafford a little banged up too, right?
Yeah.
So I mean maybe that plays into it.
Higbee coming off of he just came back last week, but
so you have those problems up front.
Yeah.
You're one hit away from this game, going in a totally different direction if he somehow is knocked out of there. So yeah, I'm kind of with you on this one. My thing with the Eagles, they're going to be interesting to see like where they're at the end of the year relative to now, because you're right, it hasn't looked right. Almost wonder is this going to benefit them what they're going through now?
I was just going to say there's almost something to be said for like gritting it through these first few games and coming away with the wins. You're banking wins while going through something resembling adversity, finding yourself, finding this year's version of the team, finding a way to kind of be better when you come out of it while also picking up wins.
It's almost like to tie it locally, like the opposite of what the Patriots have had for the past few years, where up until this last week at least, where like they're so frequently in a lot of these games at the end and they're just unable to win.
Yep.
Whereas the Eagles, it's like they're finding a way, which makes it amazing to me why Washington, the end of that game, you're not going for 2 and you're trying to win that.
There's no
you're clearly inferior team. You have an opportunity, whatever.
No greater farce in the league than the Riverboat Wrong.
Oh, it's so true.
Yeah, that's where I'm at. What's your 2-unit?
My 2-unit. Now that I look at
before you get into it,
yeah.
Do you know who the Rams' backup quarterback is? I just looked.
No.
Brett Rippon.
No, that's not good.
No. What's your 2-unit play? I apologize.
2-unit play. No, this is a very. I feel like this is somewhat similar to the pick you just made. That right down to the point spread.
Yep.
The Chiefs laying 5.5 at Minnesota. This just, again, the Chiefs are another team that there's been a lot of points where they have just not been overly impressive this year, especially offensively. So I look at this. This feels like a nice opportunity for them to get right in that regard. Not only has Minnesota's defense kind of been whatever, 20th in DVOA, they're also going from facing what was arguably the worst offense in the NFL in Carolina to one that is among top 5 in theory, right?
Theoretically, yeah.
So it's quite a swing there.
Sure.
I also think, you're looking at the Minnesota defense, you're playing a little bit into the hands of the Kansas City offense with the amount that they blitz. Blitzing at an NFL high 58% this year. Next highest is New England at 44%. It's well documented how Patrick Mahomes performs against the blitz. I got to think, too, like, if there is a sort of motivational factor here, like, that was one of Mahomes' worst performances of his career against the Jets. Fourth worst QB rating.
Got to be kidding me.
The fire alarm is going off. I say we play through, but that's just me.
I mean. Oh, God.
The takes are sizzling today.
What?
The tea, somebody spilled the tea.
Greetings and welcome back to the Spread, Nesson's Football Picks podcast. I mean, you already know it's what you're watching, but
The studio is still here.
here we are.
So that's a win.
So we've been doing this for 10 years now?
Yeah, at least, yeah.
This podcast,
In
some
various
form.
locations,
Fire alarm
various
going
circumstances,
off is
through a pandemic.
it's a new one. Yeah, that's true. We never had this much problem.
No, this is.
I will say, for all of the issues that you can have doing this kind of from a remote location, we saw that a couple weeks ago with your house cleaning and your housekeeping
Yeah,
and things like that. The fire alarm never goes off in my house when I'm doing the Spread, but first time for everything, I guess. This is better than being barged in on too, I suppose. That's happened before too.
This was and we had trucks out there too. We had.
Yeah, I think everything's okay. They let us back in.
But
yeah, we had there's a hook and ladder truck out there. There was an engine truck. I got some good B-roll that we. The truck rolling down the street. So yeah, I don't know. I mean, we
must have been our talk of going to Costco to get lighters and flaming tables and
I thought you were gonna make a
tea
reference of our hot. I mean, like we
The
were out
takes?
there for like
it's not even taking
5
into
minutes,
account
10
the
minutes,
takes.
and I heard that from about 8 different people.
Yeah,
So.
it takes too hot.
Takes too hot.
Yeah, it takes too hot.
They are too hot. So anyway,
Yeah.
it's hot out too. It is hot. I'm
Yeah.
sweating my ass off now. I'm in a mood, even more so. My hot tea did me no good outside.
No, that's the worst case scenario.
I will say the air conditioning in the building works. We came back in and it was noticeably cooler. So
Just seeing you hold that little cup of tea outside in 85 degrees. Nevertheless, 2-unit play. So we're out.
You did your 2-unit play.
I think I did my
That's
2-unit.
Kansas City,
Yeah. So Chiefs 5.5 on the road in Minnesota.
Oh, I was gonna disagree with it. I do my power rankings every week. They're highly unscientific.
Maybe that's what set the fire alarm off.
That's right. I got Minnesota closer. Maybe I might just be last out on Minnesota, but whatever. It was a take for before the fire alarm. It's gone. The moment has passed.
Yeah.
It's not whatever. Good pick.
The flame has been put out.
My 2-unit play. I'll take Baltimore, Pittsburgh under 38.5. That's a very low number.
Yeah, it is.
But I have confidence. Go back and look at the last 5 matchups between these two teams. It is the personification of AFC North football. Final scores, I will read them off to you. 16-13, 16-14, 16-13, 20-19, 19-14. All but one of those would have gone under 38.5, and the one that went over was by 0.5 point. I will say a handful of those were without Lamar Jackson, so that needs to be part of the equation as well. But I'm very concerned about the Pittsburgh offense. Matt Canada stinks at his job. Everybody has that take. Kenny Pickett might also be hurt. Well, Kenny Pickett is hurt. He's got a bone bruise on his knee. He may or may not play. Who knows? He hasn't looked great either way because the offense, again, stinks. Horrendous. And Baltimore, surprisingly, to me at least, has one of the best defenses in the entire NFL. By EPA, only Cleveland and Dallas have been better. And technically the worst this is technically the worst offense they've faced. Steelers rank 31st by DVOA. Baltimore has the 3rd-ranked red zone defense. Pittsburgh offense in the red zone, 28th. Baltimore's offense could struggle a little bit as well. against the Pittsburgh defense that probably wants to get back on track. Like, that's the thing. Like, I guess you could look at the side here and be like, this is maybe just a Baltimore just curb stomping.
Yeah.
But I think there are some things to be concerned about for the Baltimore offense as well. Pittsburgh ranks 5th in pressure rate. They get after the quarterback. Lamar, again, going back to that similar tenet that we talk about all the time. Guy's just not as good under pressure. His passer rating is 50 points lower when he's pressured than when he's not. 6.3 yards per attempt. Pittsburgh also not afraid to blitz. They've only 9 teams have blitzed more, 28% clip. When blitzed, Lamar's passer rating is 45 points lower. And you go back to the last 2 games he played against the Steelers. Granted, they were 2020 and 2020 and 2021. There's so many 20s there. But he completed 23 of 37 passes for 253 and a touchdown and a pick, and one of them they lost. 13 of 28, 208, 2 touchdowns. Yeah, I mean, less than 50% of his passes. I think they lost that game as well. Weather does not look good either. AFC North weather, at least for the fall. Low 50s, rain showers, 17-mile-per-hour winds. I believe this game is in Pittsburgh. That feels like something I should probably know.
It is. Yep.
But that stadium, this is completely anecdotal, feels like not a great stadium to score points, especially when the wind's blowing. It can affect the kicking game. We've already seen some issues from Justin Tucker. Doesn't feel like the automatic 3 points that he's been in the past. So I think there's a lot that kind of points to this being a 17-10 game, something like that.
Yeah,
20-10.
This is a tough one as far as picking a side. Well, maybe not tough. Let me rephrase that. Like,
sure,
this is one of those games where you're either really heavy on like trends in the fact that like you're getting the Steelers at home more than a field goal, coming off a loss. Yeah. Like, there's just a lot from a trend standpoint. Like that this is the type of spot they get up for under Mike Tomlin. But then you're weighing that against what is clearly the better team, in my opinion. Like, the thing about Baltimore to me is like they're one of these teams that they can beat you in so many different ways, which is why I ultimately like them in the long run.
Yeah.
Like, there's going to be moments where they get into a shootout this year and win a game that way. There's going to be moments where they don't look their best. Like, their offense hasn't looked that great.
Correct.
Like, but they're able to squeak a win. So I think that for me, like, Baltimore is a team that over the course of the season, like, I still kind of hold them in higher regard than maybe even a team like Miami. Like, because there's just a lot of different ways that they can go about it. And I think when you're looking at the division and sizing that up for the rest of the year, for me, they're clearly the best team right now, with Cleveland probably second, and then who the hell knows, it's Cincinnati and Pittsburgh. I think that defense is very overrated, and you mentioned at the beginning that offense stinks.
So Baltimore and Miami thing is interesting. Like, who's more likely to go to Kansas City in January?
For me, it's Baltimore.
Probably. Yeah.
Like, I think that was that might have been my biggest takeaway from this past week, was that like Miami, like when that machine is not functioning properly, the offensive machine, like, can they, slap some WD-40 on it and get, make sure that the thing doesn't combust? Like,
it kind of feels like ballet feels like a thing that's probably important.
Be
timing,
very synchronized.
Timing is important to ballet. Feels like it is.
Synchronization.
It feels like a ballet.
Sure. Yeah, and when one person trips, the whole thing,
all the swans go diving.
Yeah, so that's how that feels to me.
Fair. All right. What's your 1 unit play?
My 1 unit play. I'm gonna look to this Cowboys 49ers game. Or the game of the week. I am gonna take the under 45 here. I initially was laying the points with the 49ers, 3.5. The favorite says by 3.5 as of this recording. But the more I look at it, I'm gonna lean under, because I think that the San Francisco offense, for as good as it has been, is gonna face more resistance this week. Like, that Dallas defense, I think, is pretty legit. And I also look at San Francisco's opponents so far in terms of defensive DVOA. Pittsburgh, just touched on them.
They're not good.
Overrated defensively, 15th.
Yeah.
The Rams, 24th. The Giants, 27th. The Cardinals, 30th. Now all of a sudden you're facing the number one defense in terms of DVOA. I also think that Dallas, you might be thrown off a little bit by those point totals, not really indicative of how that offense has performed. A lot of things contributing to those point totals have been not sustainable. I mean, relying on Mac Jones just puking on his shoes, and that first week, the 40-0 win, there was the special team score in there. There's a lot going on. So it just hasn't really felt right outside of the occasional drive here and there. Obviously, there's them stalling in the red zone as well documented. I just think San Francisco's pass rush could pose a problem. And then going to the primetime unders. I know there's been sort of a theme this year that everybody's been harping on, but 10-4 to the under through 4 weeks in primetime. Since 2019, 134, 92, and 4. So just primetime unders in general have been pretty profitable. It's a
I like that you're going back to that well after being on the wrong side of it.
You gotta, I don't want to. I'm not abandoning ship just yet. It's a funny number, 45 for these two teams who, hypothetically could come out guns blazing. I just think that for me, that San Francisco offense is going to be tested this week, whereas they have just not been tested at all.
Yeah,
and to their credit, they've looked good. Brock Purdy's looked really good.
Has Brock Purdy been tested? I don't remember
outside of being injured.
Yeah,
not really. So,
I guess to that point,
Dallas
this would have been the Dallas game last year.
It was
like a 17-14
and this is the biggest test that he's faced thus far. So yeah, I think you're going to be surprised by how few points.
Interesting. Yeah, that puts it at about 421.
Sounds about right.
Yeah, these two teams played in the divisional round last year, 19-12. On Purdy, 19 of 29. 14. Offense very effective. That's where I would lean too. I'm with you on that one. All right.
What do you got?
My 1 unit play, I'm taking Green Bay at Vegas. Green Bay laying 1.5 after the ugly Thursday night loss. This game feels to me very similar to last Monday. Obviously, Seattle was actually getting the 1.5, but you look at the home team, the Raiders this week, Giants last week. Davante Adams didn't look good with the shoulder. I don't know if he's going to play or not. If he's not playing, he's going to be compromised a little bit, I would imagine. That's kind of similar to Saquon Barkley being injured. And I also think the bigger picture point is the Raiders are flying under the radar for how bad they are, similar to how the Giants were last week. And I don't get a lot of stuff right. I was spot on about that Raider or Giants Seahawks game. And I think it took a Monday night beatdown in front of everybody to realize, oh, this is not going well for the Giants. And I think the Raiders find themselves in that spot this week. They come in with the 32nd ranked offense overall by DVOA, the 32nd ranked rushing offense by DVOA, 32nd ranked rushing offense by EPA play. They rank dead last in the NFL with a -9 turnover differential. Theoretically, they should be able to run the ball. Their offensive line, I think, is a bit of a mess. If they can't do anything on the ground, they've got no chance of beating the Packers. I think from a Green Bay standpoint, this is what they are, right? And I've said this all along. There are going to be weeks where they're going to get pants. They're going to get embarrassed because they're too young. They're probably not well coached enough. And there are going to be weeks where they look okay. I think this is going to look a lot closer to okay because I just think it's a good matchup. If the Raiders can't get that offense, that rushing offense going, which they haven't yet, I think that really plays in what the Packers want to do defensively. They can pin their ears back. Rashawn Gary's been fantastic so far. Kind of takes away their biggest issue. And I think they're going to score some points against the defense, Raiders defense that just hasn't been very good either. So, and this is another one too. I mean, Packers fans travel well everywhere. I think going to Vegas, that's like a perfect trip, right?
Sure, yeah.
You get to go out for the entire weekend, watch football Sunday in Vegas, and then go see the game on Monday night. This is all you can ask for. So, I think it's going to be basically a home game. Again, Davante Adams got that shoulder. I think it's a shoulder injury. If Jair Alexander is healthy, maybe if Joe Barry lets him play press coverage, I may take that away completely. Who knows who's going to be playing quarterback for the Raiders? I don't think any one of those three is very good. So I just think this points to the Packers. At laying 1.5 on the road with a team that just got embarrassed is a little uncomfortable, but I just wonder if this gets maybe closer to 3 by time.
Did the quarterback thing in Vegas not get enough play this offseason over how much of an issue that could ultimately be? I understand the moving off of Derek Carr thing.
Yeah.
But when that's the route you go is Jimmy Garoppolo, Brian Hoyer, in Aiden O'Connell is like
it makes me wonder if
that's the room. Like what is the direction? What is the direction of your franchise?
Was it supposed to be Tom Brady?
Makes you think.
Yeah, I don't
you know, like well, that's what it feels like. It feels like they had to piece something together at the last minute. When in reality, if you're moving off a guy who's been, for better or worse, your franchise.
They got a guy
who's
franchise. Damaged good too.
Yeah, and it's just like, I don't know. To me, it's like, how did you stumble upon that group?
I think the other thing too, there's another similarities. You got former Patriots offensive assistants, whatever, with Dave Ball last week. This McDaniels. I mean, this is no hot take. Don't sound the fire alarms again. Maybe just not a very good head coach at all, especially when the video came out last week being like we were 6-0 until found out that we got caught cheating and then we just didn't win again. It has not looked good anywhere he's been as the guy running the operation. So I think that's something kind of.
Yeah,
that's that. All right, let's do show and tell and let's mercifully get out of here.
Yeah, this has been a grind. This one.
This has we're earning our money today. What is your showing?
So I'll stick on the quarterback theme.
Sure, I would love that.
So I'm gonna pull out.
Yeah, I was wondering what that was. I saw you.
You know what this is?
Oh, is this a bow tie?
It's a bow tie.
How do you say?
Have you ever worn a bow tie?
No. How do you say bow tie?
How do I say bow tie?
How do you say it? Say the word.
Bow tie.
Bow tie. That's why. Yeah, my wife says it weird. Bow tie.
Bow tie. Yeah, little accent on the
backward
I like
typo,
that.
Yeah.
Little bow tie.
Bow tie.
So you've never worn a bow tie. I haven't either, right?
I have not worn a one that you have to tie.
So, right.
I went to a wedding when I was like 4 years old, and I had a flip-flop bow tie.
I bit off a little more than I could chew with this a few weeks ago. So I was at that wedding on the West Coast. A good friend,
black tie,
alumni of the spread, Andre Kachatourian, and his wife. They had a lovely ceremony, black tie affair. I said, you know what? If I'm ever gonna wear a bow tie, this feels like the week. I felt like Andre would have appreciated that if I just showed up looking dapper. And then the day of the wedding came. Yeah. And there's a lot going on, and everybody's trying to get ready and blah blah blah. And I'm in there, and I am on YouTube trying to figure out how to tie this goddamn thing. And I got about 5 minutes into it, and I completely abandoned the mission. Because I brought a regular tie as well, and I said, you know what? This just isn't for me. Maybe some other day
I'll tell this story in a couple weeks on the spread. I'll get credit for trying.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So that's where my head was at, and I just went with the traditional tie. So one of these days I will conquer that one of these days. But in the moment, aborted the mission. All of this is to say, I think Atlanta needs to abort the mission at the quarterback position because Desmond Ridder ain't it. He ain't the dude. And that for me is, you touched on it at the beginning when you did you breeze through the league. That NFC South is a very winnable division for all teams involved. And I look at their upcoming schedule, a lot of winnable games there, the offensive talent around them. Maybe I'm just pissed off because I expected a little more from the offense last week when I had them in the Jaguars on the over. But he had two very bad picks. They just can't push the ball downfield. In theory, it's nice to have this quarterback who's mobile and they're able to do these things. I mean, their run rate last year, obviously a team that was so reliant on the run, and you have Ridder, and you're like, oh, maybe this is a good fit. But just having him takes away that downfield element. I think at this point, Taylor Heineke might be the way to go. At least just add a little something to that offense. Because, you got weapons on the outside, and you can't get anybody to get them the ball. What the hell are we doing here? So you got to abandon that mission. And also, Desmond Ridder, it's not like he's a top 5 pick or something. You should be able to move off of him pretty easily. I think you do it sooner rather than later because you have a chance this year in a down year for that division to potentially make the playoffs. Can't throw that away. So
unfortunate hairline.
Yes.
All right, cool.
But yeah, so the bow tie thing. I would honestly, I was I don't even know where they wanted me to start. I should have just got a clip on. I'm such an idiot. This is all they had. So
we need to take away the stigma of a clip-on, at least when it comes to a bow tie.
Nobody knows you have a clip-on on until you tell people you have a clip-on on, right?
Yeah.
You can get away with it.
What a stupid
thing. Who cares?
That's your fault. All right. For mine, I've got
What is it?
We're going back to car talk.
Okay.
So I've got a busted side view mirror. Start with a little story.
Is that yours?
Yeah, this is mine. So I was running a little late to work a couple weeks ago. Been a rough few weeks, and I was there's a side street you can cut down, and it says, no through traffic 7 to 9 a.m. I'm looking at traffic in front of me for about a mile. I'm like, oh, I'm doing it. It's never enforced, but it's a tighter street.
Merely a suggestion.
Yeah, pretty much. Nobody's like, the only person who's ever going to give you any gruff over it is somebody who lives there and doesn't want people ripping down their street. So I went down the street. It's a winding road in the middle of nowhere, and it was trash day. Very tight street. Thought I had room. Didn't have it. Whack! Thing goes flying. It's like, oh, Jesus. So I get out. I'm trying to park the car, and it's like, I can't. Car's zipping by, too. It's like, hey, did you know you're not supposed to drive through here between 7 and 9?
Give him the old, why I oughta.
So I get out and pick up the thing like I'm going to salvage it. And it's just busted to all get up. So this side view mirror could be a rear view mirror, whatever. However you use a mirror, it's always to look backwards, right? And it says here, too, objects in the mirror are closer than they appear. For the New England Patriots, the objects are not just close, they've passed them by. The entire league is passing them by. The entire league is passing Bill Belichick by. I think it's time to have the uncomfortable conversations. The worst loss of his career last week at Dallas, 38-3. They were never in that game. It was boring. It was ugly. It was hapless. It was listless. Just every negative, adjective you can think of. They got embarrassed by Mike McCarthy. It was so bad that a Mike McCarthy coached team special teams them. Like, that's how I'm, as a Packers fan, I had flashbacks to like the 14 NFC Championship game where the Seahawks are fake field goaling all over the place. And you're getting embarrassed by a guy who doesn't have a great reputation as being, buttoned up. So there's that. And just, you look at it and it's 27th in turnover differential. They're in an EPA tier overall with Pittsburgh, Carolina, Vegas, and Cincinnati. Minus 23-point differential in the first quarter. 30th in the league. They're getting beat the piss out of early in games. 32nd in special teams DVOA. This guy talks about how they commit so much money to special teams. They bring in Joe Judge and well, go handle it. Like, they kept Cam McCord when they should have fired his ass after they got, kickoff returns and stuff all the year last year. No improvement there. 71% of their drives end in a turnover or a punt, which is the worst in the league. The roster is not good. They have no offensive line depth. They have no game-changing skill position players who strike fear in defense. You look, you talk about the defenses. Their defense is okay, right? How much depth is there actually? Christian Gonzalez goes down, who had been fantastic, by the way. Who fell to them? Like, no genius move to draft him where they did. He goes out. They bring in Miles Bryant.
Belichick. Sipping the tea, sipping the OJ.
No kidding.
Binoculars.
First play, Miles Bryant comes in.
All
they go
memes.
Right after him. Targeted 7 times, 7 completions, 144 passer rating when targeting him. I mean, it's just like, a guy goes down. Gonzalez is hurt. Judon's hurt. The defense is pork now because I don't think there's a whole lot of depth there. And you go to the quarterback. He is a jabroni.
That was a puddle of a performance.
And I went back and I looked at it. I was curious. I was like, is he at least doing the things that people said he'd be good at? No, he's not. So I looked at his NFL scouting report, NFL.com. Above average accuracy, throws a very catchable ball, has a tendency to play with some panic when pressure gets after him. It's like, well, there that is. He's good backup to low-end starting potential. Won't take unnecessary chances very often. Did that on Sunday. Accuracy to prevent receivers from having to break stride. It doesn't feel like they get a whole lot of yak. Look at the weaknesses. Doesn't play with the desired pose of an NFL starter. Plays can be panicky and rushed in the face of pressure. Has trouble locating opening targets. And would like to see him play with more grit. It's like, so this is nothing new. You knew that Mac Jones was not going to be Tom Brady. You had to have known that, right? So what have you done around him? Absolutely nothing. And they keep re-upping stiffs. Like Devontae Parker gets a contract extension. Like, there's nothing to feel good about. I would feel bad, but I don't because I won 6 Super Bowls, but I almost feel bad to root for this team because it feels rudderless. It feels directionless. It's on Belichick, who is just basically feels like he's coasting. And it's on Robert Kraft for not holding him accountable. How many times as a Patriots fan do you have to hear Robert Kraft say it's just not good enough? And then they run the same thing back, or maybe they make one tweak and they bring in Bill O'Brien, who maybe was never a very good play caller to begin with, had Tom Brady. Oh, that helped. And there's just not enough there. It's just, God, it would drive me nuts if I was a Patriots fan.
It sucks.
They're embarrassing. And they're boring too.
They're the most boring team, and that performance on Sunday, like even the non-turnovers, like there was one where Mac Jones just tried to basically feed them another touchdown, and they didn't take advantage of it. And it's directionless. It's just there's no real. It feels like there's no sense of urgency to bring in skilled players that are very clearly at the heart of the way this league is trending.
I feel like I didn't totally pie in the mirror thing.
I get it. Yeah.
So I'm saying too, there's a.
I think I get it.
There's an inclination to look backwards and be like, well, it worked in the past.
Exactly.
And it's going to keep working now. And it's just not. It's not. It's been 20, 21, 22. It's been 4 years. Like, this is a big sample size.
Not to mention, like, and I think this gets lost in the shuffle sometimes too. They weren't that good Tom Brady's final year either.
No, they weren't.
Like the problem. So good on him for getting the hell out of there, because the problems are starting to manifest themselves right then and there.
He knew.
So that's telling in and of itself. And then when we just spent a few minutes dumping on the Raiders quarterback situation. Where the hell is the proven veteran backup on this team?
Well, that's the other thing too. So you bring in Bailey Zappi, who, like,
that's the thing. It's like,
come on.
I'm totally in favor if you want to bench Mac Jones right now, but for what? For Bailey Zappi? Like
who doesn't even fit the system as well.
He stinks too. So, and then the worst part of that whole game was, like you mentioned, the injuries that Christian Gonzalez and Matthew Judon. So it's like, not only are you getting your ass handed to you, but oh, by the way, your two best defensive players probably are now going to be out for a significant amount of time. So good luck for the rest of the year.
I'm a borderline coward for waiting until October of 2023 when they get beat the worst that they've ever been beaten to take a definitive stance. And I could still be proven wrong. Like, I'm still kind of afraid that it's going to be like they're 7-8.
Well, New Orleans comes in this week, and they could.
But like, this is
could take them down by 20.
It feels broken, and like, those injuries are massive. You can't overstate that. I think this thing gets ugly. There's a lot of whispers out there about, is Mac Jones lost the building? Does he have any allies in there? Like, that kind of stuff. Yeah, get beat by 35. That process gets sped up to being like, we're done here, man. I don't want to play.
It's magnified even more when one of the other teams in the division puts up 70, and then the following week gets beat by 28 to a team that's even better than they are. So it's like you're really scratching and clawing for what?
I mean,
like this,
they'd be 0-4 if Aaron Rodgers didn't get hurt, probably, right? I mean, so
not good.
It's so bad.
Every week you're just like, where are the points coming from?
I think they need a hard reset.
So I was looking at that total, honestly, when I was trying to put together 3 picks here. It was like 39.5.
Give me the under.
For 2 under teams. Like the Saints they've been hammering unders as well. So it feels low, but it's at the same time, it's like, well, where are the points coming from?
17-16.
Like you need some sort of a defensive score or a special team score, like something fluky in order to get over that number. So that might be worth a little look-see.
All right, let's get out of here. I gotta go. That reminds me, I gotta order a new one of these. I've been driving.
Let's get out of here before the I don't know, carbon monoxide detector goes off.
Famous last words, but the Boston area, not exactly ideal to be navigating out of side view mirrors.
Yeah. Well, so all right, so you're mirrorless. I'm hornless. Maybe we can join forces and assemble a functioning vehicle.
Can't tie a bow tie. Fire alarms are going off.
Also, I meant to mention, so last night outside my place, somebody else's alarm was going off. It's just stuff going on everywhere in that neighborhood, man.
A lot. Sensory overload.
Jesus.
Sensory blitzkrieg.
Yeah.
All right, cool. Been fun. I'll see you guin next week.
Let's do it.
All right, goodbye, everybody. Thanks for joining us.